Welcome back to the Gen Z Speaks podcast. We have a very special guest today. Ivan, introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm Ivan Salas, a comic here in LA, and very much not a Gen Z. I don't know if I should get the fuck out of here or not.
You kind of look Gen X.
No.
Dang. You son of a bitch.
Sorry, man. It's our first time meeting too.
You look like you own a warehouse and you smell like it too.
Oh, well, thank you. You got
right
me
on.
there.
Right on. Gen X was what age again? Like 40?
40s?
About 40s, yeah,
Okay.
something like that. I feel like they're the most jaded generation.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. I feel like their parents were baby boomers and hippies, and Gen X was like, I'm not like you, Dad, and they just wore like leather jackets and punched
Interesting.
nerds.
I've never heard that one before.
Jaded.
Yeah.
Jaded. Gen X is jaded. There was a meme that I saw the other day where like the greatest generation was based. Baby boomers are cringe. Gen X is based. Millennials are cringe. Gen Z is based. That's
We're
kinda-
based.
Really?
You're based.
I
What
thought
do
we
you-
were the heroes
Of what story?
of every story, man.
Of our mental story.
We're the ones that are going to save America. We're the ones making America great again.
Well, hurry the fuck up. The election's in 4 months and you ain't doing shit. You got to go save Joe. I don't know how.
Gen Z speaks. This is what we're doing, man.
Yeah, just record.
Saving America one step at a time.
I feel like you guys should take over Joe Biden's TikTok account and really.
Does he
drum
have
up
one?
Does he have a TikTok?
I think he does. He recently
He might,
launched it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's also trying to ban TikTok.
Right.
So yeah.
Because Trump is on TikTok, so he has to be on TikTok. as
Trump's
well.
on TikTok?
Yeah. He has
What does he
3
post
TikTok.
on TikTok?
Bro, have you seen his TikTok?
Yeah, it's just thirst traps mostly. A lot of thirst traps showing off.
I had the best orange hair.
No chance.
No, one of the videos of this is a true thing on Donald Trump's TikTok is him facing off with Logan Paul before they go on their podcast. It's like a face off.
Really?
For like
What?
10 seconds. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Wait, Donald Trump was on Logan Paul's
Podcast? Yeah.
I did not even know that.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
When was that?
Like
while
3
back?
weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm probably not gonna watch that.
Donald, can I say something about Donald Trump's public outreach policy? It is genius because he's going on all these like platforms that
Yeah.
have millions of listeners, and no mainstream politician would ever go on them because they're not like CNN or Fox News,
Right.
just because you can't see him on cable. And he's reaching like younger voters.
Bernie used to do that, and Pete Buttigieg did too at the beginning of his campaign back in like 2019, just to like elevate his profile because no one knew him. But yeah, it feels like Trump's kind of taking from that playbook, and Biden's just too tired to go to these.
Vivek did it.
Vivek, yeah, that's how he got
Vivek
big.
Ramaswamy.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
What a character that.
What do you think
guy
about
is.
Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yeah, what do you think about him?
I didn't know all that much about him. He just felt like he was trying to. I don't know. He just felt like someone who was trying. He was a hype beast. He was a hype
He was a
beast
hype
politician,
beast.
just trying to get hype up and like, yeah, I'm a lot like Trump, but guess what? I'm not white. It makes me different, and like I'm young and like Silicon Valley or whatever. I don't know. I was not very impressed.
Yeah, he was
by
a
the guy.
pharmaceutical guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
pharmaceutical?
yeah,
I thought he was
yeah.
a tech bro.
Well, yeah, he has like businesses in tech, but I think he's a biotech investor, and he had a pharmaceutical company that he sold for millions of dollars. Vivek, something about Vivek though is he never talked about his race as much, which was interesting.
Oh, it makes sense if
Yeah.
you're trying to get
If you're trying to-
Republican
yeah, you're like-
votes.
You know what? I've actually seen quite a bit about his race and his
That he
his
talks about?
religion. Yeah, I think
Interesting.
his strategy. Well, I've seen. I'm not gonna say a lot. I'm gonna say like 5 speeches that he's talked about his religion or something like that. And I think because he is Hindu, his point was, let me combat this first before somebody else throws me under the bus that I'm not a Christian, and let me explain my specific points of view.
Yeah.
Because he basically said kind of what Jenish says, that there's like this overarching God, and like it is the singular God. He basically says that this is, even though I'm Hindu, this is my singular God, and so we're not all that different. That was his approach, which I'm like, okay, at least you said it, right? At least you owned it.
But does he agree that Jesus was white? That's very important to
Wait,
the Republican
yeah.
base. Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, that's why he didn't get anywhere.
What the thing is though, we know Vivek Ramaswamy. 10 months ago, nobody knew who
Yeah, of
Vivek
course.
That is
Ramaswamy
fair.
was. So he was very successful in doing that. He's never run for office before.
Yeah.
He went for the top position, and now mainstream Republicans know who he is. And Trump might pick him as his VP. Probably not, but we'll see.
Probably not VP, but he'll probably get
Some position.
It truly does feel like he imitated a lot of the Buttigieg playbook, right? Just kind
Vivek,
of
yeah.
going out there, talking to every single podcast platform, just getting his ideas out there, his face out there, and now Pete Buttigieg is Secretary of Transportation, so
right.
Vivek will probably get something like that. I
Yeah.
would
Yeah,
bet.
that's pretty good.
Something like that.
I
Do
mean,
you-
I don't mind the guy. I think he's better
Vivek, he has some ridiculous policy suggestions. Like
Yeah. Well,
restricting the voting age to like 21 or something was one of the other platforms, I believe.
I did not know that. Really?
Something like that, yeah.
He said that?
Something like that, something along those lines. This might be disinformation right
No,
now.
I
but
want you to give me accurate
the accurate
information.
fact
Yeah.
check this.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Where's Quant?
I
Quant's
know.
also our
Quant's
fact
our
checker,
fact
man.
check.
He's out. I want to ask you though. Do you guys think Trump's gonna win? You saw the
Yes.
debate, right? You think he's gonna win?
I believe he's going to win. Yes. Yes.
I know he's going to win.
It's I mean, people mostly had one concern with Biden,
Right.
and he proved them entirely correct, right? Even though I think Biden's first term will go in history as one of the best terms ever.
You
by a
think
president.
so?
Yeah, on domestic policy, foreign policy is a bit sketchier, but the infrastructure bill he passed, he did a lot for climate change, the rescue package with COVID.
Build
He
back
actually
better.
rolled out COVID effectively. Not COVID. He did not roll out COVID.
That was China.
Yeah, that was China, of course.
Yeah.
No, the COVID vaccine. I just think history will be very kind to Joe Biden, but right now, dude,
No one's.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It just spooks me a little bit. Really
A
spooks
lot of
me.
people are surprised that Joe Biden was looked confused. He stuttered his words, but if you watch his speeches, he's been doing that the entire
Yeah.
term. So I don't know why people are so shocked because he was just being himself. I did not see any major difference in him.
After I watched the debate, I watched 2019 versus 2024, and oh my god, that honestly made me really sad. Not only his stuttering significantly obviously he's probably dementia, like early on times of dementia, but whatever. I think what made me feel weird was his face. His face
his
looks
face.
entirely different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He looks like a different person.
Yeah.
He looks like a Madame Tussauds wax museum of his former self.
I couldn't think of a better description.
Yeah. It's hard because I love the guy, right?
You
I
love Joe Biden?
I love,
Really?
I am unapologetic in my love of Joe Biden.
What?
Despite a lot of foreign policies. Hey,
Right.
I'm Gen X, or
No.
you guys call me old as fuck. So now I feel like I'm
You
one of-
love Joe Biden.
I kind of love Joe Biden.
What makes
yeah.
you love Joe Biden?
Well, a lot of the policy things I said, I think he's, for the most part, truly a very decent guy, or as decent as a politician gets. And
It's a low bar though for a politician.
it is a
Yeah,
low bar,
decency,
but he's
right.
only competing against other politicians, right?
Right.
I don't know. I think he's a good dude who has tried his best, and his best has been pretty good. But he's not. He's not in
Great
game shape, right? He's not ready for big time anymore. I think he's got to. I don't know.
His
I feel-
family's telling him to stay in the race.
Yeah.
They just met at Camp David, and Hunter Biden specifically told his dad to stay in the race. But
Well, if Hunter says
if
it.
Hunter says it, oh my God.
Yeah. I did vote for Joe. At the time, it just seemed like the right decision. It just did, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I regret it, but I definitely feel like there wasn't great decisions to make. There was not good options, right? So it's
Yeah, exactly.
It's which evil do you want to choose? But I will say, in the past, I do like what he's done for the country.
Mhm.
In the past, it just at the moment, I'm not very pleased with him at all.
I don't like Joe Biden.
Even-
He's
Even his prehistoric.
what has he done? He's sponsored the crime bill. He was voted for the war in Iraq, right? He's been a very standard politician. He's not a revolutionary. He's not somebody who can institute change. I think for the time that he was elected, 2020, that was probably the best time he could have ever been a president. Like any other time, he doesn't work.
So I slightly disagree with you there. Although I will admit that back in the 90s, the whole like Anita Hill situation or whatever, he managed that horribly.
What is that?
Clarence Thomas, right?
Yeah. So when I forgot exactly how it went down, but when Clarence Thomas was being
nominated
for the Supreme Court,
the hearings were happening,
Joe Biden was the head of the Judiciary
Committee,
and Anita Hill had made some accusations that Clarence Thomas had sexually harassed her. And Joe Biden, the way he ran that investigation and those interviews were like deeply upsetting and made her.
They were
like,
combative, right? Like,
combative, like fighting her, which is weird because Clarence Thomas was a Republican nominee. But I think back in the day, these things tended to be the consensus was you just approve the Supreme Court nominees from the presidents.
It wasn't like it is now, like with the Brett Kavanaugh situation, like how contentious it got. People just breezed through the nomination process.
Exactly right. Sorry, the change agent thing. That's what I want to talk about. So I feel like change needs two different type of people. You need the revolutionaries and you need the people that are like inside of the system making the changes, right? So Bernie Sanders has been trying to run for president forever, and I like Bernie Sanders a great deal, but that sort of approach that he has, very aggressive, A, it's very hard to get actually elected in office that way, and B, once you're in office, it's very hard to get stuff done. You need people like Bernie to move the party and the country in one direction, and then you need people like Joe Biden to actually get into government and make changes that are closer to that. So I think Bernie and Joe Biden kind of are the yin and yang of making change, making, in my views, because I'm a progressive, positive change. You have the same on the right. Like, Trump is his own weird thing, but remember that Trump was not originally an extremist. He just ran for office, right? And then he joined the extremists. And now those extremists who were unelectable got their ideas instituted in the government because Trump was able to do it inside the system, even though Trump was an outsider. But, you know.
I think Trump was kind of extreme in his views, though, because he started his speech, right, with calling Mexicans rapists and whatnot. And then so that's a pretty extreme position. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think, but I hear you, though. I think you're right in that a country to govern in a democratic way needs people that think in a very outside perspective that doesn't fit in the mainstream. And obviously that perspective isn't going to be embraced immediately. So it takes time. And then you need these standard bearing politicians to bring those ideas in and find a compromise. But I think the Democratic Party just rigged it against Bernie since 2016. Like they kind of did. They did him dirty, man. And they blamed him. Hillary Clinton still blames Bernie Sanders for Donald Trump being elected. She's like, had he not been in this contentious primary with me, I would have won. Like that's one of the reasons why she says she lost the election was because Bernie endorsed her too late, but he endorsed her right on time at the Democratic primary, which like I don't know.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's Hillary's fault. She was a candidate, right? And that's that. What is true is it was such a fine margin that there were a million different factors that all played small roles that ultimately led to her losing. But the biggest one is that she was a candidate that people didn't like. Like that's the number one reason.
Yeah.
Anyways, welcome to this comedy podcast.
Yeah, welcome to this comedy.
Turned up all
the first we were talking about this before, but I first met Ivan at a comedy club and I was talking about Pakistan, and he gets up on stage, and he talks about Benazir Bhutto, who is the first female prime minister of Pakistan, who was assassinated in 2007. And he made a joke about her, and I was shocked, because I was the only one in the audience who got the joke. And I was laughing my ass off, and at the end of it, I was like, this guy has to be the smartest comedian alive. Because when I talk about Pakistan, sometimes people confuse it as like a city in Afghanistan. They don't even know it's a real country. You know what I'm saying? So I was like shocked. So how do you know who Benazir Bhutto was?
CNN, baby. I don't know. In 2007, I was just watching the news like a lot of people did, especially like that was the year Obama got elected. So I got really into politics at that time. And I mean, it was massive global news. I think anyone who was alive and paying attention back then should know. And she was like such an important figure in the entire Middle East, right? Now, I don't really know much about her. I don't even pronounce her name right. But you know, I think a lot of people who care about these things definitely know. But yeah, maybe a lot of 18-year-olds might not.
Yeah, what age group was in the audience?
Oh, I don't know, man.
I mean, I'd be
It's
6
a mix.
years
It's a
old.
mix.
I'd be
It's a
6
mix.
years old at the time.
7, 6 or
2007.
7, yeah. How dare you not remember, man?
I
Come on,
know.
what were you doing?
Probably on the beach.
I was 19.
You were 19.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
You're 36. Okay.
So
How old
Gen
are you
X, no, I'm
guys?
kidding. Yeah.
So you're like top millennial. You're at like the very height.
I think I'm kind of smack in the
Oh, in the
middle,
middle, right.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you are.
I don't remember exactly, but I was born in 88, and I
88,
think
okay.
millennial starts around 82.
Oh,
It's
really?
like 82 to
Right.
94, I think is millennial.
Yeah, gotcha.
95, I think, something like that.
Could be 95.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, we're 23.
What made you want to
Very
do
children.
comedy? You know, why do stand-up comedy?
Yeah, so there's a few answers to that. Number one, I've always loved it, always been obsessed with it. I was telling you before we started recording, I only watch like comedies. I've never seen a drama, essentially. Like, never seen Game of Thrones, never finished Breaking Bad.
Game of Thrones?
I don't care about Game of Thrones.
Wow.
I just don't care, but I've seen every episode of Seinfeld and The Office and Parks and Rec and more modern stuff, like obviously like Barry, things like that. I watch a lot of late night comedy. Even today, I still watch old late night stuff like Craig Ferguson, Conan O'Brien.
Right.
I've always been obsessed with it.
I love Conan.
Yeah, he's the best.
You haven't seen Oppenheimer, like any drama ever?
I've seen Oppenheimer,
Okay,
but
so
it took me a
yeah.
while
To
to
watch
see it. And
Oppenheimer.
honestly, I was
Yeah.
way more excited about Barbie. But Oppenheimer was great, actually. Well-deserved Oscar, I guess. So I thought it was great. But always obsessed with comedy. There were a couple of times where I kind of started once when I was 18, but didn't really progress beyond just like writing jokes and looking up open mics, but then I never actually went. When I was 28, I was in business school, and one of the guys in business school was like putting together a comedy show, and he's like, "Hey, you're silly, like fucking
Silly.
yeah, you're a
Right.
goofball. Like, why don't you try it?" And I did 15 minutes. The first time I ever
Wow.
did comedy,
Oh, shit.
and it was like in front of 200, 300 people. They were all classmates, though, right?
Right.
And it went so well, so
Really?
well. The first time I
Wow.
ever did comedy might have been the best time I ever done
Really?
crushed
Oh,
it.
that's badass.
It's way easier when everyone's like a classmate because it's a supportive room. You can make a lot of inside jokes that kill. So after that, I did comedy for a little bit, but then because of work, I stopped. So that was back in 2017.
Okay.
And then, you know, I work in finance, very demanding jobs, blah, blah, blah. And then in 2022, I went through a very, very bad breakup. And then after that breakup and like my job getting just busy to an extent where I didn't want to do it anymore, I was like, let's burn this life I have to the ground and start again as a comic.
Yeah.
Average breakup. Average breakup.
Classic. Yeah.
But listen, you went to Harvard Business School, right?
Yeah.
And
You went to
you went to Harvard Business.
I
Yeah,
remember
he
this.
just
Okay.
had business school. You know,
Yeah.
he was a very humble guy. So you went to Harvard Business School, and you do comedy there for the first time for 200 people, and you do 15 minutes.
Mhm.
That is insane.
That is.
Because everybody's first time, they do like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 7, but 15 is like a proper set.
Yeah. It was a full. I prepared for that for like a month and a half. Like
wow.
the moment
Yeah.
my friend told me, I started skipping classes and like just focusing on writing jokes for this set. And I drove all of my friends fucking crazy. I was like, "Hey, is this funny? Is this funny?" And 99% of the times they were like, "Nope." So I had to go back and like, and I didn't
Wow.
go to any open mics. An open mic wouldn't even make sense because if you're doing jokes about
right.
like school, like, so I just raw dogged it. And
And it went amazing.
Yeah,
That
it
is
went really
awesome,
well.
bro.
Yeah.
That is a cool experience, man.
What? So when you were at Harvard, because it's a very strenuous school in terms of academics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like when you were in business school, you weren't fulfilled in a way? Like, was that in the back of your mind? Like, comedy is really my passion. Why am I here?
It's not that I was like, comedy is my passion. I just deeply felt like an outsider. Okay. And I felt this way throughout my career at all times. And it's not that I didn't love a lot of these people. I
Right.
fucking loved them. Some of my best friends were from business school. But I think they would all agree I'm different. Like I do the work and I can do it okay, but the degree to which I don't give a fuck is like I would go to classes and like people would get excited and there would be debates in class. So the format of class, it's the Socratic method. So it's a professor,
right.
there's 90 students, and they don't give lectures. It's all driven through conversation with the students. And the whole time I would just be sitting there like drawing, not paying attention at all. And if I ever made a comment, it was just jokes. I would only make jokes, but jokes related to the topic. So I was just kind of learning how to improvise and talk in front of an audience.
So you're like
Well,
if Goodwill
class.
Hunting went to business school with a
No,
sense of
because I was
humor.
the dumbest one there. I want to
Really?
be
So you
clear.
weren't- okay.
It's not like I was the smartest one.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but
I'm imagining you
at
being like
all.
yeah.
No, I would say when you put me in a room full of smart people, I'm the dumbest one there usually. So yeah, but like financial analysis or putting together a business plan or whatever, I find it very dry. And yeah, sure, it can be more fun than other jobs, but it's still a job. Well, some of the people there are just so passionate. They just want to start this, laundry startup app, which there were a few of those. They're like, I want to revolutionize laundry.
Laundry.
Like, cool. But they were so passionate about that. Or people who really wanted to go into Wall Street or consulting or, and I just never had that, not even a little bit.
So before Harvard, what were you doing?
So I spent 2 years in investment banking in New
Okay.
York, and then 3 years doing hotel development in Latin America. So like opening up new hotels in Latin
Really?
America.
That is
Yeah,
badass.
it was a cool ass job.
That's a cool ass job.
Yeah, I was based out of Miami, which by the way, living in Miami is the best. I would
I can imagine.
every
right.
day I'm like, I should drop everything and move back to Miami.
So what drove you to business if it's like kind of drier to you?
Yeah, well, that story goes back to being a teenager. I was a very creative teenager. Like I wrote music, I wrote comic books, write jokes. I was always like doing little comics and passing it around class. I was in the group of people who was always like sitting in the back making jokes and whatever.
Okay.
And I really wanted to study advertising. That's what I was going to do. And my parents were like, that's not a real thing. So you have to study either like
Interesting.
economics or law or like med school or engineering. Like those were
Right.
the only options. This was still back in Argentina. So at that point, I decided to study business. And then when I moved to the US, I switched to finance. Mostly because I was living in the suburbs of Maryland and I fucking hated the suburbs. I hate suburbia.
Yeah.
If you live in suburbia, I apologize, but I hate it.
You're speaking to a man.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
We're offended now.
Sorry,
yeah.
burbs boys.
Burbs.
But I didn't want to be a burbs boy. So I was like, the fastest way to get to like New York is study finance, move to Wall Street. So that's what I did. There was no plan. I just kind of did things as they came along.
So before we start the podcast, you were telling me you moved from Argentina twice, right?
Yeah,
So were
that's
you
right.
born?
In Argentina.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're
yeah.
born and raised there, would you say? Or?
Half and half. So
Half
I
and
was
half.
born in Argentina, moved to the U.S., to the Washington, D.C. area when I was 3, went back to Argentina when I was 9, came back here when I was 18.
Oh.
So a lot of back and
So your
forth.
formative years, 9 to 18.
Formative years in Argentina. I still very much consider myself Argentinian.
I mean,
Like-
you are, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously,
Yeah.
when I hang out with Argentinians, I'm definitely the most American one there. Like whenever I go back, like I am now a little different. Like I like, caramel macchiatos or whatever the fuck.
Right.
I drink kombucha. Like that's not something you do down there. But
Do you miss it?
oh
Literally?
yeah, every day of my life.
Really?
If Argentina weren't a constant shit show, I
Yeah.
would have never left.
Wow.
Yeah.
What city in Argentina?
Buenos Aires,
Aires?
the capital. Yeah.
Can you describe it?
Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful mess.
It's a
Like,
beautiful
It's a
mess.
beautiful mess.
Buenos Aires is a beautiful mess, dude. Let's start with Argentina got immigration, huge amounts of immigration from Italy, France, Spain, also the Germans, but we don't need to talk about
Dude,
that
I was
right
literally going to
now.
ask, is there German towns?
Yes, there are German towns. They are out
That is-
there. I just stay away from them. And every now and then you'll
That's
meet,
wild.
even in
Yeah.
Buenos Aires, you'll meet a dude named like Miguel Schneider. And you know, like what his grandpa was up to, you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever come across, you know who? Adolf? Or
Adolf?
Adolf?
Yeah.
No,
A certain
but
gentleman.
Adolfo?
I
Not a
did-
gentleman.
Adolfo?
Adolfo.
Adolfo.
Adolfito Hitler.
Adolfo Hitlertino.
So I never met Adolfito, but when this last time I went to Argentina in November, I went to visit and I went to a town called Bariloche. Bariloche was not founded by the German immigrants, but the boom of that city came when the German immigrants came in. And we were walking around the town, and at one point, my cousin, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's Hitler's house." Like, what are you talking about right now?
Oh my
Like, yeah,
God.
that's where like he lived and died. I'm like, he died in a bunker in Germany.
killed
or
himself, right?
whatever.
Yeah.
Killed himself. She's like, please, like you believe that?
What the fuck?
So like, ooh.
That's Hitler's house.
So we have a complicated history, is what I'm saying. But let's move away from the Germans. Let's
Yeah.
go back to Buenos Aires. So you have all these European influences. It impacted the architecture. Like if you walk around Buenos Aires, at times it feels like you're in Paris or Madrid. Other times it feels like you're in the middle of like the most impoverished country in Latin
Tale of
America,
two
right?
cities.
It's such a
Favelas.
mix. Favelas, essentially. We call them villas.
Vicious.
But then the people, there's also, I was watching this Venezuelan comic who lives in Argentina, and he said that Argentinians are bitterly happy people. So they're all like bitter all the time. And they're like, an example would be like, look at this beautiful shitty day. Like that's kind of,
Oh.
we're such a contrast of like depressed and joyful, and our music kind of reflects that. And you can go out, like they say New York is a city that never sleeps. Dude,
Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires is a city that never sleeps. You can go out until noon of the next day if you want to. Like,
Whoa.
never stops partying. Like, everyone is so artistic. Like,
Yeah.
every bro plays the guitar. Like, and yes, they all play Wonderwall at parties. Like, it's
That sounds amazing, man.
That is pretty
it's a
dope.
very artsy,
They're bitterly
cool,
happy.
bitterly happy people. And like, if you know me, you know, I go from like deeply depressed to like wild and crazy like that, right? And that's just
Yeah.
my people in a way.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
I thought
just,
that was just a comic in you, but that's just
part of it's the comic
Yeah.
in me, but even the fact that I have that artistic impulse, a part of that is
from-
just being Argentinian. We're very artsy people.
Is that because it's embedded in the culture, or why are they so artsy in Argentina?
I couldn't really tell you why necessarily. I think maybe it's just a mix of being very passionate in general. Like we didn't get, like America got the Brits, right? Who came
Yeah.
in and were like there for religious freedom and like industry. Argentina just got people who like to like party in a way. I don't know. This is an oversimplification.
Yeah.
Right. But in
But-
a way, yeah.
In a way, yeah. So I can't explain, but like when I look at all of my classmates in school, like everyone either played a guitar or did theater or did some form of comedy or like painted,
Wow.
like,
That's it's to me. It's interesting that you're classifying the whole country as like artsy.
it's an oversimplification,
Oversim-
of
gotcha,
course.
But I'm sure there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
right?
But percentage wise, I bet you it's a higher percentage than most countries.
Hmm.
I would bet.
Interesting.
Is that like a maybe I'm sounding? Is it like a more of a South American trait that it's more like artsy, or is it specific?
I think it's more. It is South American for sure. Like Brazil has a similar
Right.
vibe,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of like entertainment and music across Latin America, it's changed recently, but a lot of it was just exports from Argentina and Mexico. Like music from Mexico, telenovelas from Mexico, or telenovelas from Argentina kind of traveled all over the place. So these are like countries that had deep cultural influence and impact over the rest of Latin America. It's since shifted a little bit. Like music now, the biggest music is reggaeton, which comes more from the Caribbean. But yeah, sorry, that was a meandering response. But
No, but that's
No,
interesting.
yeah,
It
bro,
is,
it's
it
really
is.
interesting actually. I know almost nothing about South America except I like to say I'm from Uruguay.
oh, are you from Uruguay or is it just
No.
a fun word?
Just a fun
It's a
word.
fun word.
It is a fun
I'm
word.
from lots of places, but
He's from everywhere in the world. This man is from everywhere in the world.
Mr. Worldwide,
Mr.
Pitbull. I like it.
I want to shave my head, but she says no.
Let him shave his head.
Yeah, what the
He
fuck?
would look amazing.
Thank you. I have done it before.
You shaved your head like 6 years ago. I
Yeah,
remember.
right after high school.
Right after
Oh,
high
nice.
school.
Shave my
And
head.
how did that go for you?
Felt great. I
It
didn't care for the
feels
way I
nice.
looked, but it felt amazing.
You look good, man. You didn't look
I
bad.
don't think I look bad.
Yeah.
Just let him do it. You're
Yeah, let
just
me be.
afraid about girls throwing themselves
Yeah.
at him.
Yeah, that's
Thank
the
you.
Gonna
fear.
look
That's
too
the
hot.
fear.
Thank you, I appreciate
The Riz
that.
will just go off the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm already...
Also, grow a mustache, good. Just, yeah.
Get a
just
tattoo, like a chest tat.
embrace the Home Depot aesthetic.
Oh,
That's
damn.
such a part of your life.
You're
Just
right, bro.
embrace it.
I wish I could grow a thick stash and just have the stash, but it just doesn't come, man.
Really? Why is that? Are you full Latino or?
No, it's a trip. So I did my 23andMe, and 46%. So that's pretty significant. It's from Spain and Portugal, like
Yep.
that area. We thought we were Mexican, but 4% is only indigenous, only 4%.
Okay.
So highly Spanish, and then the rest I have like North Indian blood. I have what else? Persian or Iranian. I have Turkish.
Like how you're looking at me.
English,
like-
Scottish. I know. I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
English,
yeah.
Scottish. Some other stuff.
You're like the result of one big fun global orgy. It sounds like.
Yeah, well,
Nice.
Ashkenazi Jewish.
Yeah.
What?
I have like 2% Ashkenazi.
Everyone's got.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Everyone's a little bit Ashkenazi. Yeah.
Not me. I don't think
You're
I am.
not?
I don't
I'm
think-
sure you are, dude.
99% North Indian Pakistani.
Yeah, you might be.
I am.
Probably.
Yeah. No, North. Yeah, probably actually. Probably.
Yeah.
I've never done my
Pakistan is
23andMe.
North India.
Have you done your 23andMe?
I did. Yeah.
What did it say?
was I think it was something along the lines of 40% Spanish,
Okay.
22% Irish, 6% Swedish, 6% Italian, also around 5% French.
Mm,
There was a little bit indigenous,
same
and
thing.
then definitely Ashkenazi Jew.
Yeah.
There was a little bit there too.
So all of Western Europe, pretty
Yeah,
much.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
I want to go back to you said growing up, like you saw all this late night comedy. You were obsessed. You wrote comic books. Why do you think it took you a longer time to find that calling and really pursue stand-up comedy?
I didn't feel like it was a real thing.
It's not, as we talked about.
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
It didn't feel like
Yeah.
something normal people do, right? Like I thought. So I've always been like a class clown and like
Right.
part of the group that's funny, but I was never the funniest one within that crew, right? So I just thought it's one of those things where anything artsy, you should really start doing it when you're like 12 years old, seriously, because I would do it all on my own. I didn't like take classes or anything. I felt like you had to do it early, and it felt like just because of my family, no one does anything artsy. I have one cousin who was like a theater major, and she's awesome. But that's about it. Everyone else is just very like business or
STEM or-
So I just didn't. It didn't feel real to me. I don't know. I felt like I was cosplaying as a comic whenever I did it, but then it was time to get serious again, right?
I think that's a very relatable feeling.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
a lot of us have that.
Yeah.
And at some point, you You let yourself do it. You give yourself permission to do it. And I had to go through a lot of very turbulent shit to the point where I was like, well, what do I have to lose now? Let's just do the thing I've always like felt I had inside. And I was trying to like fill that hole of not pursuing something that I wanted to pursue with other shit. I kept like trying to come up with business plans for business ideas that then I would never do. Like I wanted to start a limoncello company during COVID. You
What
know
is that?
Yeah.
limoncello is like a lemony alcohol.
Okay.
So I started making it during COVID. Like some people were like baking bread. I was making booze. I was like, and I started making limoncello, and it was really fucking good limoncello. And like I would give it to friends, and they were like, "Dude, this shit's dope." And I was like, "I should start a limoncello business." I even had a brand. It was called Cellos. But I kept doing things like that, like trying to fill this hole with void, right? Fill the hole. I don't want to edit that out, please. Void.
Which hole?
Void.
I took magic classes at one point. I took polo classes. Like I just had all these weird one-off hobbies that I would do for 2 to 3 months and then drop.
Interesting.
Just to like avoid getting into comedy, because I knew once I really started comedy, I wouldn't be able to get out. I just knew it, right?
Yeah. And you were right. I mean,
And
you
I
were
was right.
pursuing it very seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you quit your job, right?
Yes, correct.
And then you just, like you said, you literally went into it very seriously. You quit everything, and all you did was stand-up comedy.
For a while,
7
yeah,
months.
for about 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
And how was
6,
that?
7 months. Well, initially scary. I had never been unemployed other than when I was a kid, right? So that was just kind of spooky. And I actually do not recommend anyone do this. Like quit your job to do comedy for a while. I think you should give yourself as much financial runway as possible. But my thought process was I want to very quickly get as good as I can on stage, and I wanted to very quickly build a network in comedy, right? Those were kind of my 2 goals. And it was in many ways fucking awesome, man. It's so much fun to like truly treat it as my full-time job. So I would like wake up every morning, write for 2 hours, go to like 5, 6 open mics. I was treating it like a 9 to 5 job, essentially. And to be able to pursue it wholeheartedly like that, I would love to at some point just do comedy, because that's such a cool feeling. But on the other hand, there were certain things where like, hey, I just saw my savings dwindle, number 1. Number 2, I feel like I was so focused on comedy that I wasn't living a life outside of it. So I was like emptying the tank of material very quickly, because I didn't have anything new to talk. Like, what am I going to talk about at this mic about my mics yesterday? Like, you have to live a life while you're doing comedy. And I think I neglected that for a while. So then I like, by month 4 or 5, I started to feel kind of like writer's block a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm working again and just trying to live a bit more of a balanced life. And it is helping with my writing again, I think. But I don't think that's the move. Like people, I don't think should fully quit their jobs to do comedy. I think try to figure out a balance that allows you to do comedy seriously while still like making an income and living a life.
What was that moment that you're like, I need to quit?
Well, I quit my job because the job was just,
what were you doing?
It burnt me out. Yeah. So I was working, my job was VP of finance and operations for an independent film studio. Okay. So the main job was to raise money to make movies.
Oh, wow.
That was the main job. And it was fun, such a fun job, but it's just extremely demanding. Like the independent movie industry is just, it was like a 6 a.m., 7 a.m. to like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. type of job,
Wow.
right? Not every day, but
Yeah.
most days we're talking about minimum 12 hours work days.
Oh man.
And so I had decided to leave that job and take a break.
Mm.
And initially, as we mentioned, my break, I was like, I'm going to travel the world and find myself. And then I was like, nah, maybe I just tell dick jokes instead. And through dick jokes, I found myself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You discovered your
I discovered, yeah.
So, as a VP of finance at an independent movie studio, you say you work 12 hours a day. What are you doing in those 12 hours? Pitching to clients or?
So, a lot of it's just building models in Microsoft Excel. So if that doesn't sound appealing to you, stay away from business finance. So that's a big chunk of it. Another chunk of it was just being on calls with banks, with investors, with lawyers to try to package all of the financing. A lot of it was just also internal meetings to like discuss strategy and everything. A lot of it was also just coordinating with different divisions and outside companies. So it's like a constant grind where you're either building models or on Zoom calls.
Right.
That's essentially what it was. And every now and then I had a little fun and built a PowerPoint deck instead. That's
Instead of Excel?
that was the artsiest part of that job for me.
Would you try to like be funny in these Zoom meetings?
All the time.
All the
Yeah.
time? Yeah.
All the time.
Break the ice.
With mixed reviews.
That is
Mixed
daunting
reviews,
though.
yeah,
Trying
yeah.
to like be funny in a business setting where things are like high stakes.
I can't help but be that guy.
It's
That's
you.
the thing.
That's
I
just
can't
you, yeah.
stop myself from being
Yeah.
that guy.
Right.
And I think in lower stakes meetings, people enjoyed it or at least tolerated it. When I'm making stupid jokes when like stakes are high, people like my boss sometimes is like gets on the Zoom
Oh my.
like okay,
Really?
sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was right. He was correct.
But to you, it was kind of like alleviating the high pressure. Yeah, I
Exactly.
get it. That makes sense.
And it's like, yeah, I worked in entertainment, but it was the driest people
Part of
in
entertainment.
entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Bankers, lawyers,
Yeah.
and finance bros.
People are
so-
so uptight, man.
Yeah.
Corporate America is just like, it's like hell. To me, it's like hell on earth, bro. I mean, I did it for two years.
Nice. What'd you do?
I was an account. I did a few things, but real estate broker and then account manager, and brokerage is kind of probably not similar, but the same, like 12-hour days, just grinding on the computer and making calls. But account management, man, it's because now I have an actual team and there's people in the office, and it's just like these lights that are, you know what I'm saying? It's just like it just sucks, bro. And so yeah, I hate it, but you know,
I don't hate it. It's kind of all I know, and
Yeah.
from a work standpoint, right? I've
Right.
only had corporate jobs. The last job wasn't quite as corporate, and I really liked that about it. Like I felt like in my last job, I could be myself.
was
in a way.
that job?
Yeah, that job.
Got it.
It burnt me out,
Yeah.
but it was the most honest work environment I've ever been in. From the standpoint of you didn't have to go in like, "Hey, Sally, how was your Monday?" Those kids,
Right.
like all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It wasn't like that, and I liked it. Corporate America is what it is. I don't know. It's.
There's no other way around
There
it.
is
though,
no other way around it,
you
and
know?
it's not.
I mean, there is,
bad.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd rather never be in it again. Let me be very clear.
Right.
I don't ever want to do it again.
You don't miss it.
But since I might need a corporate job, and I currently have a corporate job, I
Yeah.
can't shit talk in the podcast. But
No, absolutely.
know,
It's
yeah.
not. It's not a bad
No,
thing. Most
no,
people
yeah.
need it and like are okay with it, and that's totally cool. But if you don't like want it, what are you actively doing? This is my biggest thing. It's like if you don't like it, don't complain about it. What are you actively doing to get out
Yeah.
of it? Right.
exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
I think if you have a corporate job, unless you love that shit, it's very important to have like a rich life outside of it. Because if
So-
all you're doing is that corporate grind, dude,
Yeah.
it's not good for you. Because you're just putting on a fake mask
That is a great
10
point.
hours a day, and like if you don't have something after that,
Mm.
it's bad.
How far is your commute right now?
Oh, it's super easy, like
Oh,
10
really?
minutes. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that. Have you ever had like a long commute?
The longest I ever had was when I lived in Miami. It was like 40 minutes,
40,
something like
okay.
that. Yeah, yeah.
The last gig I had was in Van Nuys when
Yeah.
I was account manager. Brother, that was an hour and 20. That would kill me, dude. I would literally get home and I would just be so, I still live with my dad. I would just be so pissed off. He'd just be like, "What is up your ass?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Dude, just not right now, man." You know what I mean? I think it's just the whole structure of it. Like, you have to commute to this place and it happens to be an hour and a half away. Doesn't matter if you're doing your work or not. You got to come in. And that, I think that's a big killer to me, dude.
Yeah.
How many hours a week would I be on the road? An hour and a half there every day, 3 hours a day, 15 hours a
15
week.
hours a week. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, man.
That's like a part-time job
That's a
in and of
part-time
itself.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything about working in an office setting is unnatural to human beings. Like, you're inside all day. You can't be your true self. You're not doing any exercise. You're in front of a computer, a monitor, just in your face all day. Like, it's bad for you.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to decide whether that's worth the relatively steady paychecks.
Right.
But unless you have some sort of life outside of it that you really appreciate, why are you doing this to yourself? And that's kind of how I felt for most of my life. This is all I did, right?
I think it's because people get used to it and people
Yeah.
don't like changing. But the thing is, a lot of these big tech companies are making their office spaces have a gym. They have a gym there. They have like the most amazing amenities,
Yeah.
so that it's like more natural. But
Yeah.
One of my buddies works at Toast,
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
POS
the
system.
payment.
Yeah. And he loves, and we had him on the pod. He loves the gig, man. And I met other people that work there, and that's totally cool, right? If they make their like workers happy working for them, then that's great.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's how it should be. They should be happy to go to work with you, and they're not burning 8 hours of their day. They're kind of, doing something they enjoy too.
Yeah. Exactly. And like, listen, corporations, especially ones that are public, so that means they have, shares in the on Wall Street. Their only goal is to maximize returns for shareholders. And that's what they should be doing.
Right.
I honestly believe companies, that is what they should be doing, and changing their culture and everything to a large extent should come from the government and regulation and things.
Interesting.
But also, I think a lot of corporations don't realize that treating their workers right for certain industries is, well, for all industries, you should treat them right. But prioritizing workers for a lot of industries, that's the way to maximize shareholder
100%.
value. But a lot of places don't realize.
People don't
that.
realize, yeah. That's such a basic tenet.
Yeah.
That all these kids go through business school, right? And they don't realize, like, oh my God, I'm treating my workers like absolute crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think subliminally, psychologically, it's kind of a power trip too. That they're kind of making this decision that all these workers under them are burning their life while they're kind of enjoying the reapings of it.
I think that's a small minority. You think that's? I mean, I don't know.
I think it
definitely there's people like that for sure.
Some people, sure. I do think a lot of people are control freaks and want to have control over expanding fiefdoms, right? And I kind of used to have that as well. And a lot of people in business do have that.
Okay.
I would say most of them, however, do not want to abuse power, and that like gets them off in a weird way. I think most of them, some might. I've met people that is the case, but most of them want control and prestige. Like, that's very important to a lot of these people. Prestige is extremely important.
Prestige.
I was a prestige whore for the longest time, so I understand that impulse. I don't think they purposefully want to make their underlings' lives shittier, but the main priority is always, how do I become more powerful, more prestigious, and move up? And if you can help me in that pursuit, I will treat you well. And if you're making that pursuit harder for me, you're a fucking problem, and we got to deal with you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then there's other leaders. Having a good leader I've had really good leaders in the past, especially when I worked at Warner Brothers. I felt that way. And a little bit of my last job, like those people will help you grow as a person. You feel yourself getting like better. And that's because they have a different, like I had a boss that was essentially a Ted Lasso, like essentially. And I love that guy. I would have died for that dude back when I was at Warner Brothers.
Yeah. Awesome.
You would have died for that guy.
Well, maybe not die, but
I sacrificed my life.
He actually asked, real quick, sorry about that. He asked our previous co-host, one of our buddies, he was like, would you die for Intel? And he was like, would never die for any company.
Yeah, exactly.
That just made me laugh. But yeah.
Never die for a company. But when people truly treat you right and invest in you, those people are fucking gold, man. They're so rare. So like it does create a sense of like loyalty and wanting to reciprocate what you give to me back to you.
I think a leader's job should be to instill confidence in the people that you are leading. Once you instill confidence in them, they will present to you the best version of themselves. And that'll only help whatever goal it is you're trying to achieve.
Correct.
And great leaders have this ability to manage people in a way that doesn't seem like they're managing them, right? You're just like talking to them in like a, not a parental way, but almost in a way that's accommodating to their personality. And like a person, that's why it's very important, I think, for leaders to be like socially, like just socially active, in the sense that if you understand different personalities really well, you can tend to every single person in that way.
Correct.
And navigating that, social competence is so necessary for leadership, in my opinion.
Definitely, man. And to be fair, I've only had 2 years in the corporate world.
That's fair.
Three companies.
That's enough to make you want to hate it.
Three companies. One company was the leadership was fine. It was normal, wasn't great. 2 companies, it just made me like deter. And one of the companies was a commercial real estate company, and I don't necessarily have a boss with that, right? But like the more head honchos, it just, dude, it made me like want to push away from working with any team. I don't know. It's a very weird feeling, man.
Yeah, and that's just bad leadership.
Just bad leadership.
I think leadership is a deeply human art with very statistical outcomes, right? Like you're trying to hit certain numbers, certain objectives. But if you're only focusing on the numbers, you're not doing your job as a leader. And a lot of people don't realize that like the job itself is human. I don't know.
It's 100% true.
That is.
As VP of Finance at an independent studio, what were filmmakers pitching to you all the time, and like you were trying to like finance their specific projects, or did that happen often?
Yes and no. The way it really worked is we have a creative team, right? They're the ones who are making choices on which scripts to buy. So they work with like CAA, UTA, WME, talent agencies to read scripts that kind of fit our company's profile, and then they decide which ones to invest in. So then you buy an option for the script. I don't know if you know what an option is, but essentially you're not buying the script, but you're buying the rights to a certain amount of time, the rights to produce it. Once you have that, you try to find a director and the main actors to package it. And once we on the finance team have a script and a package, that's when we kind of, from the finance side of things, take over. And we go to banks and we go to investors. We show them the package. We tell them what the budget is and try to find financing.
What's the biggest obstacle to get financing for a big indie project? Just the lack of money.
The lack of money is definitely that. Here's the thing. Independent movie making, television too, but specifically movies, is a horrible business. It's just a bad business. Very few people make any money in it. And people do it because they love the art form. They find it exciting, but it's a bad business. So the one thing is you have to find those small, like those very few diamonds in the rough that might become big. That's hard. And then it's trying to find someone crazy enough to believe in that project, to put money in it.
Right.
Banks, it's a little bit different. I'm not going to go into it, but they
Right.
are able to invest and make money even if the movie doesn't do all that well. But the equity investors, you gotta have a little bit of crazy or a little bit of cowboy in you. So convincing those guys to put money into this project that 90% chance they're not going to make much money on it, and 10% chance they can make a shitload, right? So that's the hardest part.
So your job was basically finding creative ways to finance projects.
Correct. It wasn't that creative.
Yeah.
We actually had a
Financially,
pretty traditional approach to
Okay.
financing. But it's the main job was the negotiation, the back and forth. Like they want this, and we're like, no, you don't get that. You only get this, and blah blah blah. And for every like proposal that goes back and forth, you have to build a model, you have to make adjustments, and you have to explain why what you want makes sense. And that's the hardest part. And then herding cats, because every movie, like you watch a movie and the credits go on for 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
It's that many fucking people that you all have to get aligned towards this objective of financing a movie and making a movie and releasing a movie and distributing a movie.
Yeah.
Herding cats, that's what it is.
Herding cats.
That's the hardest part.
So from a creative point of view, or from your perspective to a smaller creator, what is the best, or what is the route they should take to get their thing made?
I mean, that's a complicated question.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you're a small, like you write a script, you don't have a lot of experience, how are you going to get it in front of someone who can put money behind it? Well, obviously the number one way is to find an agent, right? Of course.
Right.
And how you go about doing that, I don't know. If you find out, please tell me. But if you want to find investors, I know a lot of people who have just crowdfunded, families and friends. If you don't know a lot of people with wealth, then, just continue networking and like ask people who know people is what I mean, who might not even have anything to do with movies.
Small world.
But that can throw a small check your way and then take your idea and figure out a way to make it as cheap as possible. And whenever you get it cannot be any cheaper than that, you go 10% cheaper. It's so important to get it as bare bones as possible, at least those initial ones.
Yeah.
And then you go on. I know a lot of people, right, who took that approach and they made either a short or a small movie for, call it 100,000 or less.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it takes initially. Now, once you're someone who has representation and whatever, that's a completely different ball game. Yeah.
Got it.
At that point, your agent's just sending your scripts to Netflix or these small studios.
I think at the heart of every art form is just working on your craft and making it as best that you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else just falls into the right place, right? I feel like if you truly, let's say for comedy or screenwriting or acting, a lot of young creatives, we feel like we want to be seen, but it's also about working on the craft. And I think it's being seen as just a byproduct of your progression in that specific art form. Now, you can do things to expedite the process, right? By getting representation or making a short film or financing your own projects. But I think, I don't know, if you truly believe in your art and you truly work on making it better, eventually you'll be at a place where you want to be. But I think persistence is the key. If you keep discipline with it and you are persistent in whatever it is you're trying to pursue, everything falls into the place naturally.
Yeah.
In a weird time, for you, stand-up comedy, right? You were dreaming of it since a kid, and now as you got older, you've done all these jobs, and you're basically living the dream. You have your job that pays your bills, and you're pursuing stand-up comedy, and God willing, somehow down the road, you'll have a Netflix special, and everything just falls into place whenever it was meant to be.
I hope so, but the one thing I do not agree with you with is that you just have to focus on the art or the craft. That's a huge part.
Yeah.
But if you think about it as a business, your art is the product, and then everything else you do is how do you sell that product. Right. So you got to do both. Now, I consider myself currently, God, I'm such a fucking nerd. I consider myself currently to be like in the research and development stage of my comedy.
R&D,
so right now, it's all about getting as good as I possibly can. And at the same time, I produce shows. I host a mic. I'm out there networking. But I don't consider my art yet to be ready for prime time. It's just not there yet. And I know that. So I'm not at this point like going to the big club auditions. I've done a couple, but like the Comedy Store or the Improv, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't put a lot of content yet online because I don't think I'm there yet. A lot of people would disagree with my approach, and they have valid points. A lot of people are like, you just got to put shit out there. Something about myself, I don't know if it's perfectionism or just being scared, but I feel like I need to feel more confident in my material than I currently am before I start putting it out there. But once I do, you bet your ass I'm going to be so aggressive about it. I'm going to go to every audition. I'm going to be putting it online. I'm going to be marketing it. I'm going to be putting on shows.
Yeah.
So the art is a massive part of your success, but the other parts very likely equally important.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The older I get, the more I've been hearing it's more of the right place, the right time, the right people, rather than what you know and what you can do, right? Because if other people can put you in a place that you want to be, right? But it's can you do that yourself? And that's a very difficult place to come out of, right?
Yeah.
A huge part is, like you said, networking too, like, making people see.
That's part of it. But I think a lot of people in this current day and age, right, where we like want immediate results, instant gratification. I mean, in terms of, look at social media, right? You get a like instantly, you feel good. And under that motto, people want success and fame very soon. If it doesn't happen soon for them, they're like, I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. But you're not doing anything wrong. It's just taking its time because you're still building that art.
You could be doing something wrong.
You could be. You could be a lot of the times, right? A lot of the times. But I think your approach is very good, man, because I feel like as an artist, once you feel truly comfortable in your own skin and your own art, that is beautiful, because a lot of people will push you to post stuff, right? To just do it. Just, you'll get like 10,000 likes out of it. It might go viral. You might get more followers. But if you don't truly feel comfortable in it, you're not doing yourself justice, in my opinion. And so the R&D approach is perfect. And I love how you use your business approach to stand-up comedy, which is like genius, because it is like a business. You're building a business. The product is you, your stage time. Yeah. And right now you're doing market research. You're looking at other comics, or you're studying other comedians, I'm assuming. You write a lot. Sure. And it's literally like, I think stand-up comedy, like any other art form, is making your own business where the product is just you. It's just you, which is amazing, man. It is a business at the end of the day. If you want to make money out of it, you have to treat it like a business.
And I don't think people should think about it in a dirty way, because it is art. But if you want to get your art out there, like if it matters to you to connect with people and people see your work, then that's got to be a part of it. Or else you might be performing amazing art, but kind of to avoid. And you might get discovered. You might do it for 5 years and someone just pulls you out and like, oh, this guy. Yeah. But it's unlikely that'll happen that way.
Do you think people make art just for themselves? Because I know a lot of creatives that are like, if this film doesn't get seen, it doesn't matter because I love it. And just because I saw it, it makes me happy. And I don't think, though, that that's good long term, though, because I feel like if you make something naturally, don't you want it to be seen by other people as well? Or does that vary from person to person?
I definitely think it varies. I think when people say it, they're trying to compensate for if it does fail. I think that's a huge part of it. But obviously people are making things, like you say, he says all the time, he says, everyone just wants to be heard, which is a fair point. Everybody, dude, have you ever met somebody that doesn't have like this artistic thing that they've always wanted to do?
I have some people.
Well, yeah, you're right.
They're like, I just want to. I just want to make partner. That's it.
Mark, what do you do for fun? Oh, I don't know. I run and I like to
CNN
tile and watch CNN
Fair,
and huge fan of the Lakers. And
Yes.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's what sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fair. But I do believe that before they turned into this mark, that they were in high school and they wanted, I don't know, maybe they want to be a part of a rock band, or maybe they whatever it may be, right? There's something down the line, and then eventually, like you said, the dream kind of dwindles and dies and reality sets in. And yeah, I think that, so my point to this is people want that because they want to feel like they are special in a way, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not special, but there's things that we can do to make us
I am
special.
special. How dare you?
You are, right?
Well, I would disagree with you. I don't think it's special at all. But yeah, at the end of the day, people want to feel. I have a. This is kind of out of pocket, but I have a weird theory, I guess. I believe that people love superheroes because there is something innately special about them, and we ourselves aren't. And so you're able to express like that insufficient feeling of being special through this love for these makeshift characters. I think that's
It's not a weird theory. Billions of dollars are
Well,
made because of that theory, my friend.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. But you're right. Like,
Yeah.
we all want to feel special. I
Yeah.
think that is true. Deep down, I think every person wants to feel special in some sort of way.
I don't disagree. But I think the biggest longing people have is for connection. So when you said be heard, that like we all want to
Right.
be heard, that I fully agree. I just think people have something inside. We all have some inner turmoil going on,
Yeah.
and we want people to see it, feel connected to that, and we're creating a bond, but it's also extremely scary, right? And because it's so scary, a lot of people hide behind, I'm putting it out there, but I don't really care. I'm doing it for myself. And that's bullshit. They might not want to be famous. It's possible they don't care about being famous, but they care about people seeing it, resonating, and saying like, hey, dude, like that meant something to me. For example, I write a lot of songs, a lot of music.
Really?
I've never put it out there. Mostly because I'm a little bitch. Like, that's truly the reason why. I've never even tried. I also don't think it's particularly good, but that hasn't stopped me from doing comedy live, right? And that the music element of my life is something where, as of right now, I do it for myself, but I wish I had the courage to put it out there just to connect with people. If anything, to make my friends and family understand more of what I'm going through my music, but I've never done it.
Wow.
So comedy is one thing where I'm like fully going for it.
Yeah.
Music is something that I kind of repress and hold for
Do
myself.
you play it for your friends and family?
Rarely.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you're doing it for us before the podcast.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
But I was doing
It's all the
little
strings,
jokey
A little
jokes.
joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, you're an interesting guy.
Yeah.
You ran for local office. You write songs for
I
yourself.
won.
You
won.
I won.
The
damn it.
346, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
346 votes.
346
Mid City
votes.
West Community Council Treasurer, 2019-2021. Go on.
What made you want to run for that?
Wait, explain, because I think we weren't recording.
Oh, we weren't recording.
Yeah.
yet.
You ran for local office.
Okay,
and you
sorry.
won.
So
Yeah.
back in 2019, I ran for local office for my local community council. I was in a community or neighborhood called Mid City West. It's where like the Grove is.
Yeah.
And I did it for 2 years. I think part of the reason why, one part is simply what we were discussing before, trying to fill that void
Yeah.
with something.
It's like politics.
Number two, I was like deeply disgusted with Trump and everything that was going on. I think I was part of a wave of a lot of young people that got involved in politics. I did it at the very lowest level, but I was part of a wave. And third, I've always been very interested in politics. Like The West Wing is my favorite TV show. I interned for a congressman in Capitol Hill in 2009.
Nice.
Like I also love politics.
Okay.
So it wasn't unheard of that I would try to do something like that, I guess.
Nice.
Wow.
I have. Do you have any questions on that? I have a question on something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in local politics, did you have to encounter like a lot of what Americans don't appreciate about politics, how dirty it can be, right? Like how transactional it can be. But I mean, you were at a very local level.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you encountered that, but
It's a little bit the purest form of politics. Like, it truly is, for the most part, people trying to do the right thing.
right.
But there was severe disagreements, huge. And there were some like political maneuvering at times from the different factions of getting what they wanted. And there were outside groups, especially like real estate developers, where community councils would oftentimes send recommendations to like zoning boards and things like that, with like our stamp of approval for one development or another, where they are trying to like influence us in different ways. But it's still all pretty clean, I'd say.
Let's also not forget you were the treasurer.
Yeah.
Were
Were you ever? We
Are
don't
we
say it on
investing in
I
air.
took all
Argentina?
that money, baby. I took those $42,000, quit my job, focus on comedy. Yeah,
Is that budget paying for the open mics?
correct. Yes. Just I have my open mic fund, which is funded by LA City taxpayers. So thank you.
They look at the receipts. What? Fourth
Yeah,
wall?
what the fuck is this?
Fourth
Yeah,
wall
fourth
comedy
wall,
club?
fourth wall.
$5.
Hollywood
$5.
comedy. Yeah,
It's all just $5 receipt.
yeah, exactly.
Oh man. So what I'm really interested in, because I'm interested in business. So how was the process applying to Harvard, and what made you kind of want to get
Oh,
your
you've told me
MBA?
that story before, but go ahead. Yeah.
A little bit, right? Okay, so right after college, as an undergrad, I immediately took the GMAT because
Okay.
it's good advice. If you're in college, take the GMAT or the GRE immediately, because that's when concepts are most fresh in your brain and you'll get a high score.
Well, I fucked up.
You're fucked up, kid.
It's too late. You're 23. It's over for
Now
you,
you're
bro.
going nowhere. You've thrown your life away. No, but I did that. I got a very good score. And that score is only valid for 5 years. So 4 years went by and I was like, I kind of don't want to go to business school right now. I'm not sure. Let me see it. Like, let me take a practice test to see how I might do to like take it again and like extend 5 years.
Yeah.
And I got a garbage grade, a terrible grade, awful.
Oh.
So I was like, well, fuck, I better start applying to business school now.
Yeah.
So that's when I started applying. And the process is, it's a months-long process. I had to like write a bunch of essays about how I was going to change the world with my MBA degree.
Right. Letters of recommendation.
Letters of recommendation, reach out to people. Remember, I actually was good at the job. Like, were you? Please just say so.
Right.
And all of that. It's a month-long process. It's not that grueling, but you have to do it, right?
Yeah. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I did hire an application consultant, which was very helpful. Very.
Okay.
That's
It's
a pro business
expensive.
move. Yeah.
It is expensive. I
Yeah.
think I don't remember, but I think they charged me like $2,000 per application.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That is a
How many did you
trip.
apply to?
3.
3. Okay.
Three.
6 grand right there.
$6,000. Yeah. Well, actually, for one of them, I didn't use them, and I didn't get into that school. I
You got
didn't.
the other two.
I got into the other two, so I got into Harvard and Wharton, but I didn't get into
You got
Stanford.
into Wharton,
Wharton.
best
Yeah.
business school in the
Amazing.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't have been able to accomplish it without the consultant, because they just make you. They don't write anything for you. They're like coaches, right? But I would write a draft, he'd see it, and it's like, this isn't ready. You gotta. It's almost like having a comedy coach, where
just
you
gonna
write
say.
a set and they look at it like, this isn't ready. You gotta punch it up. You should focus on this, that, and it's also a deeply personal experience, more than you'd expect.
Okay.
Yes.
Because a lot of places really want to see like who you are as a person.
Tell us everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like that was almost my first experience with any real introspection in my life.
Wow.
Was just applying to business school.
How old were you?
27.
27.
26 when I applied,
Yeah.
27 when I started.
Started. I'm curious, because right now I'm in a place where I have my own business, and I don't know. I've always wanted to, not for any reason particularly, but I've always wanted to just get my MBA or master's in something, and I don't know if it's going to benefit me.
Don't do it just because.
Okay.
That's extremely important. I think if you get an MBA, it's usually for a very specific purpose. And that is, I'm in one industry, I want to change to another industry, or I want to explore options. If you're working in an industry and a role, or in your job case, you started a business, right? If you're happy with this, don't go to business school. Just grow this, right? Going to business school, tuition and everything is like $200K, and then you're not working for 2 years. So depending, the opportunity cost can be as much as another $100 to $200K a year. 100%. So we're talking about $500,000. Yeah. And it depends what sort of MBA you get, where you get it from, right? But that's a huge cost just because, like, oh, I feel like I need to have an MBA. At the time I did it, quite possibly, again, to fill a void. Like, it always goes back to that, right?
Fill that void.
Because I had a job, I didn't feel fulfilled. I was like, I need to go to business school to figure out what I want to do next, but I knew I didn't want to work in, like, real estate or hotels anymore. And and now I have $200,000 in federal debt, which I hope Biden cancels, but he's got to stay alive for that.
He's got to stay alive.
You hear that, Nana? I shouldn't get my MBA.
Not just because.
Not just because.
But you going to Harvard Business School was a story of redemption for you, right? Because you told me you didn't do so well in high school, was it?
I was a terrible student in high school. Yeah, like a D student, essentially. I went to summer school every year. Just a horrible student.
Interesting.
And then I moved to the U.S. I started off at a community college, and I started doing well and getting good grades. And that, for the first time, I felt like some self-confidence, right? Going from, like, essentially being a loser. And my family really, like, values academics. So, like, I always felt like an idiot and a loser. All of a sudden, be getting really good grades and getting those, like, gold stars. That's incredibly addictive, right? Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to get more and more. And then that's where, like, this ambition, like, came out of. It was all just seeking validation.
I was just going to say, we talked about it on a podcast. I think all of us seek internal validation and external. And for you externally, that was trying to prove to everybody that I am smart. Mm-hmm. I am actually smarter than you because I went to Harvard Business School.
That's right.
And then internally, you were filling this void by taking these jobs, trying to run for local office, right? Like that
came later, but yeah.
But in the midst of all this, like, it's at the end of the day, every person just wants to be validated in their own way. Yeah, that's what it is, man. That's what life really is all about for a human. Validation.
It's very important to us, and I think it's necessary to a degree, because if you're one of those people like, I don't need any validation, well, then you're probably fucking weird and no one likes you. So,
or lying.
Yeah, or you're lying. So you got to seek a healthy amount of validation, or seek it in something that matters to you. And I also think it's important to a degree, take it from yourself. So I'm creating this work that matters to me, and I want that work to be validated. And through that work, I am validated. But just wanting yourself, like, all this validation can be very unhealthy, I think. I don't know.
Healthy is a key word, because people get addicted to getting validation externally. And I'm sure for you in the beginning, when you were getting all these A grades, you were like, whoa, let me just stay in school forever and get them grades, right? I don't know if that's what you were experiencing, but right, like, there's different levels to this, man. Like, you know, like, social media fame can be just as addicting. Like, getting likes is literally like,
it is
psychologically, you feel a high.
It happens to me.
Yeah.
And that's like just getting 54 likes. Right. I'm like, ooh, 54. Yeah. Every like, I'm like, yeah. Like, it's so dumb.
It gets you excited, man. I feel the exact same way. When somebody likes something, like a story, a story is even better, because I'm like, oh, what? You're, like, liking my update on life? Like this picture of an umbrella I took, you know?
Good umbrella.
Yeah.
Everyone's so similar, huh?
Yeah, we're all the same at the end of the day,
man.
In different ways.
That is something this podcast has really, like, opened my eyes to, because they're just honest. People can be honest, right? Whatever they're saying, even if they're not, you can see it in their face. And when they're having the conversation, the stories that they're telling, they're all telling the same story in different paths.
Yeah. It's the hero's journey, man.
It is.
Have you seen the movie A Star Is Born? Well, you haven't seen it. Yeah. You don't see. Have you seen it?
I have.
I was gonna say it's a drama.
Oh yeah.
I don't see drama.
Highly dramatic. But Lady Gaga, I'll follow that woman anywhere.
I mentioned A Star Is Born because there's a scene in that movie where the actor, I think his name is Sam Elliott. He's
Yeah,
Bradley
yeah.
Cooper's older brother.
Mhm.
And there's a scene where he tells Lady Gaga, all art is just 12 notes. And everybody is telling their version of these notes.
Mhm.
And I think that's so true. Because at the end of the day, we're all experiencing the same things. And, like, it's just our version of those notes that go out to the world in whatever capacity it is that we decide to do with our lives. Yeah. On that note, that's a good place. Anything else you want to say on the podcast?
I love this. This was so much fun.
Awesome.
I'm sorry I might not have been as funny as I
No,
like, but I think we
it's
talked
good.
about some good stuff, man. Thanks for having me.
That
here.
was you, bro.
Yeah.
It was all
that's-
you
that's
guys.
what I like.
Something I want to say, like, I like about you, bro, is you're just the same person as you are on stage, which is so, like, refreshing to see. Because a lot of times I see comics on stage and then I see them off stage and I'm like, what the hell? This guy was like laughing his ass off, making me laugh, and then off stage you're like, hey man, like I was like they're very. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen, not like to that degree, but I'm like,
It's very bipolar.
it's shocking
Yeah.
for me to see the dichotomy between off stage presence versus on stage. So, yeah.
I think I have a big dichotomy with my hosting. When I host, I'm very like, yeah,
Because you have
like,
to be your host.
You
then.
have to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But my day-to-day comedy, yeah, it's just I'm trying to be as truthful to myself as possible because that's the art form, right?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I agree. You
That
have
is
to be.
good.
And no, bro, that's such a beautiful point because I think, not to keep going, but the truly successful artists have somehow found a way to stay authentic to their version of their own stories. Like, say what you want about Kanye, he's staying authentic to whatever person he wants to be. Like, he's unapologetically himself. And as an artist, I'm not saying be Kanye, but like be unapologetically yourself in your own way. Obviously, keep yourself grounded, but you have to be authentic and feel comfortable in your own skin. Otherwise, it's going to be hard.
I think that's true. And a big part of it also is just figuring out who the fuck are you? Like, that's a big part for me. Like, yeah, I'm authentic. Authentic to what? Like, I'm a little bit different every day too, right? So that's a big part of the struggle. And it's also most evident in Kanye. His authentic
Who am
self
I?
10 years ago
Yeah.
is very different from his authentic self now.
Right.
Sometimes maybe he could be a little less authentic. That'd be good for
That's a good
everyone.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Healthy
good point.
balance.
figuring out who you are and being okay with it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are not okay with who they are. And then I feel like we're in this epidemic like plastic surgery and social media, and it's like you see perfection on screen, or even we're in LA, you're seeing perfection on the street, and it's like, how do I live up to this? How do I live
Yeah.
up to this, right?
I'm getting my boob job next week. So yeah.
I would love to see them.
Yeah. Oh, dude. they're gonna be nice. C cups. Classy. All right,
What is
go.
it about the plastic surgery ads? Whenever I travel to any city, there's
Mhm.
always billboards advertising plastic surgery and traffic lawyers.
Interesting.
I wrote it
Plastic
down in my
surgery?
journal the other day. Yeah, like I was in Baltimore, not Baltimore. Where was I?
Richmond.
Yeah, I like.
I saw your
Yeah,
story, bro.
yeah,
I
yeah.
gave it a like, I think.
Oh, really?
Maybe not, actually.
Look how crazy the world is, bro. Yeah, but I was in Richmond. I saw like boob job ads, like, oh, get the latest thing, and then right next to it was a lawyer.
If there's one thing I know about Richmond is they like their titties. Like that. Everyone knows that about Richmond, Virginia. Yeah.
It's not a low key city, by the way.
No.
You don't think it's a low key city? I think so.
What do you mean by low key?
Low key meaning like not a a lot of people go to Richmond just to travel.
Oh,
Just
just
to
to
travel.
travel? That's
Low-key
fair.
spot,
That's fair.
You know?
It
Like,
is a
what are you
big
going to
city, though.
Richmond for?
It's a relatively, it's still a tertiary market,
Well-
but it's,
Tertiary.
but you know, it's probably in the top 10% of cities in America in size, I would bet. I'll shut up now.
Yeah.
No. I said that
This
because
isn't exciting.
I was messing
Let's
with
talk
this
about the
guy.
geopolitical.
All right.
Yeah.
Never
That was a
mind.
good podcast, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming
Yeah,
on,
thank
Yvonne.
you guys for
Appreciate
having me,
Thank you,
man.
brother.
Yes, sir.